Today's Anxiety Slayer podcast is brought to you by the Anxiety Slayer First Responder Series for health anxiety. Do you find yourself repeatedly worrying that you might have a serious illness? We understand. We've both experienced health anxiety, and we know how awful it feels and how it can take over your mind and cast a shadow of fear over your life. Over the last 9 years, we've uncovered the biggest challenges our listeners face with health anxiety. And in the First Responder Series, we respond to these challenges with step-by-step teachings, tools, and techniques to help you stop anxious thoughts about your health. Enroll today at anxietyslayer.com and save 30% when you use the coupon code HEALTH30. Welcome back to Anxiety Slayer. I'm Shan Vanderleek, here with my wonderful friend and co-host Ananga Sivyer. We come together weekly from Kent and Leelanau to share Anxiety Slayer sessions with you and answer listener questions from our inbox and Facebook page. And together we share a powerful collection of techniques to reduce anxiety. Hello, Ananga.
Hey, Shan.
It's always a pleasure to come together with you for another week of the Anxiety Slayer podcast. Today we are responding to another listener question about health anxiety. And this is something that's come up quite a bit over the years that we've been working together on the Anxiety Slayer podcast, and that's the experience of having health anxiety that fixates on breathing and the worries that your throat will close up and that you won't be able to breathe. I've been experiencing health anxiety that fixates on my breathing. It worries me that I think my throat will close up and I won't be able to breathe. As soon as I focus on any feelings in my throat, the anxiety gets much worse, and I get really scared that I'm going to stop breathing. It's such a frightening feeling.
Horrible experience, and so quickly the mind just zooms in on that experience and it becomes everything. All you can think of is that sensation, and then the anxiety just builds and spirals out of control.
And why does this happen?
The anxious mind always keys into the things we fear the most. We all have our areas where we don't really like to go there. It's something that's startled us in the past, something that we just don't feel comfortable with. And the mind just goes to those, you could call them sensitive spots, and keeps replaying our anxieties. And when this happens over time, it forms grooves in our mind, like tracks in our mind that those thoughts easily fall into. And our mind becomes like a broken record that defaults to playing those same fear thoughts over and over again. This is from the teachings of Ayurveda, which we often talk about in the podcast, India's ancient science of how to live a healthy and peaceful life. And Ayurveda teaches the benefit of using simple ways to calm and redirect our mind. The difficulty is that the mind is prone to falling into these grooves and just replaying these awful thoughts, and it gets really good at just falling right in there and going over and over. And it's challenging to break the pattern, but you can break the pattern. That's the positive side of this, that we can learn simple ways to calm and redirect our mind. And this can be done via lifestyle changes and building a healthy and calming routine into your day every day.
And we've often shared a two-step approach to calming fearful thoughts about health anxiety. Talk about that.
The 2 steps are finding ways to calm the general underlying anxiety, because whatever our mind fixates on, it wouldn't do it so much if our baseline anxiety wasn't so high. So it might go to financial anxiety, it might go to social anxiety, it might go to health anxiety, but they all come under the umbrella state of anxiety, and they're all driven by this underlying rise in energy in our nervous system that's causing us disturbance. So the first thing is to calm the general anxiety, so we have more resilience. We have more of a buffer between calm and feeling completely at the mercy of high-level anxieties. And then the second step is to bring in with that skills that can help you calm anxiety in the moment. So we've got a long-term strategy for learning the lifestyle practices, choices, nutrition, behavioral adjustments, bringing in healing aspects into our daily routine that over time, though not too much time, it works very nicely once we settle into it, reduces that baseline anxiety, but at the same time, having tools you can use in the moment when anxiety is high that can help you very quickly, in a matter of minutes, feel more calm, are more in control. And the best technique that we recommend for that is EFT tapping.
Yeah, emotional freedom techniques, which is now known as EFT tapping, is so incredibly powerful. We can't express the importance of learning this enough. And later in this episode, we're going to walk you through a tapping session to help you calm anxiety around breathing and to help you stop your mind fixating on symptoms in your throat.
Yeah, so then you're covering the anxiety from both sides. You've got something, you can call it quick fix, because tapping is, emotional freedom techniques are quick and they will fix those specific fears, but they're more than that. They really do key into this heightened anxiety in specific areas and put it to rest. We had a message in our private Facebook group last week. Somebody was sharing how much anxiety they get when the bills come through the door. And I think many of us know that anxiety, that there's not going to be enough in the pot, in the coffers to meet the expenses. There's a really neat trick with tapping that you can use to calm that kind of anxiety, which I shared in the group. EFT is so readily available. Once you get the knack of using it, it's so excellent for calming these sudden high anxieties that we experience, be it bills, health, fear about our breathing, social situations. It's something that's always there. When I first started teaching emotional freedom techniques, the slogan everyone had for it was emotional freedom at your fingertips, because it's just right there whenever you need it, and it really works.
And what if we feel like we need more and yet are afraid to seek medical support?
Everyone gets anxious about their health from time to time, and sometimes we don't want to go to the doctors because we fear that. We hear lots of questions in our group about white coat anxiety, but we are duty bound to say that, the first thing to do if you suspect there's a medical issue, go and talk to your doctor, get it checked, put your mind at rest. So sometimes we want more reassurance, but we're scared because we don't like doctors, we don't like tests, we may have had bad experiences as a child, but tapping works there too. You can adapt the tapping session we'll be sharing later in this episode by changing the words to support your anxiety about seeing your doctor. Even just when we start tapping later, substituting the words for even though I dread the doctors, even though I fear the white coats, even though I hate tests, whatever it is that causes you anxiety about going to see a medical professional, switch the words out and try tapping for that. And you'll find that you'll feel peaceful about going and getting the help you need.
I was just at the dentist last week, maybe the week before, and tapped before I went, and then through the entire process was pressing on my hand, the calming point the whole time. I felt like my thumb might go through the other side of my hand, but it really, really did help so very much. And I tapped afterwards too, because I'm just one of those people. I know a number of our listeners don't enjoy going to the dentist, and I'm grateful to have a lovely, kind dentist and his staff. They're beautiful people and so gentle, but there's still just something about it that really kicks my anxiety into high gear. And through tapping and the calming point, and I think I probably did some rescue remedy as well, I came through the experience much better than I would have even 5 years ago, honestly.
Yeah, this is the beauty of these techniques. It's not that we don't get worried. It's not that we don't get anxious, because we all have this kind of anxiety from time to greater or lesser degree. So the thing with tapping and Ayurvedic self-care support systems, different things that you can do to support yourself, is that it's to a lesser degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a completely different experience. Totally different experience. So we just have to be proactive. We have to do it. We have to use tapping. We have to use rescue remedy. We have to take a few minutes out to get the knack of tapping. It doesn't take long. You can learn it in 5-10 minutes, really. And then you might choose to get good at it by following one of our more in-depth courses and learning the variety of applications you can use it for. And it's once learned, never forgotten.
Right.
Endlessly helpful. Really, really amazing thing to have in difficult situations.
And so let's circle back around to breathing and the concern that we could stop breathing when we fixate on our throat and fixate on breathing.
The first thing to know that really helps is that the body is very cleverly designed to breathe. The whole structure of the throat is designed to enable an open airway and consistent breathing. It's really cleverly designed with these special rings of cartilage, C-shaped rings of cartilage, all the way down our breathing pipe that holds it open and stops it collapsing. We just get fixated on any sensation in our throat, any dryness. Maybe there's some irritation that makes the throat feel swollen, and then we can really tune in on that. And if our mouth feels dry, then certainly breathing might not feel as smooth as it can otherwise. So even simply having a bottle of water with you with some rescue remedy in it, just to sip on, can be really helpful. But if you find yourself gasping for air during high-level anxiety or an anxiety attack, one thing that really helps is to practice breathing with a longer, slower exhalation. Put your attention on your out-breath. The tendency is to try and gasp air in quickly. And what works is to blow air out slowly. It's the opposite to what we think we need to do. And that's something you can practice any time of the day to just get the hang of that long exhalation.
The main issue with this kind of anxiety is the story we tell ourselves about it. We have all of these what-if thoughts that quickly can take over our mind and fill us with fear. And in a moment, we'll share with you how you can stop those thoughts and feel calm and in control again with EFT tapping. Get relief from health anxiety symptoms and save 30% through the end of August. Are you missing out on time with your family or unable to do things you love because you find yourself frozen in the fear that there may be something wrong with you? Does this sound familiar? We understand. We've both experienced health anxiety, and we know how awful it feels, and we know how it can take over and cast fear and doubt in your life. You can learn how to stop your health anxiety now and calm your mind with the Anxiety Slayer First Responder Series on health anxiety. Learn more by visiting anxietyslayer.com and then click on the sale banner on our homepage for more information. All you have to do is use the coupon code HEALTH30 to save 30% through the end of August. Well, let's close the show by sharing a tapping session for the fear of not being able to breathe. And hopefully, if you've experienced this, you will listen in and come away feeling much calmer to know what you can do in the future if you start to feel this way.
Yeah, we invite you to tap along with us. This will be a shortened tapping session. You can get the full-length version in the First Responder Series for health anxiety. By listening to this tapping session and following along, you acknowledge that you take full responsibility for your own well-being. If you need a diagram of the tapping points, you can find one at our website at anxietyslayer.com/EFT. So we begin by tapping on the side of the hand, which you can see on the diagram on our website. And we're just going to use some generic words which are derived from this listener question: anxiety about not being able to breathe, anxiety in the throat, fear of the throat closing up, just using the words that have come from the question that got sent in to us. So tapping on the side of the hand. Even though I'm scared of not being able to breathe.
Even though I'm scared of not being able to breathe.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
Even though I'm so scared of suffocating.
Even though I'm so scared of suffocating.
I accept my thoughts and feelings.
I accept my thoughts and feelings.
Even though I have all this anxiety around my breathing.
Even though I have all this anxiety around my breathing.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
Now we move on to begin tapping through the EFT tapping points. The first one's in the middle of the top of the head. All this anxiety in my throat.
All this anxiety in my throat.
And the beginning of the eyebrow. This fear of not being able to breathe.
This fear of not being able to breathe.
And on the outside corner of the eye. I'm so scared of my throat closing up.
I'm so scared of my throat closing up.
Under the eye, this fear of suffocation.
This fear of suffocation.
Under the nose, this feeling in my throat.
This feeling in my throat.
The center of the chin. It makes me feel so scared.
It makes me feel so scared.
And the collarbone. This fear of not being able to breathe.
This fear of not being able to breathe.
And then patting on the point under the arm. This fear of stopping breathing.
this fear of stopping breathing.
Back up to the point on the top of the head. All this fear around my breathing.
All this fear around my breathing.
And the eyebrow point, this fear around my breathing.
This fear around my breathing.
Side of the eye, this fear I'll stop breathing.
This fear I'll stop breathing.
Under the eye, this fear my throat might close.
This fear my throat might close.
Under the nose, it really freaks me out.
It really freaks me out.
And the center of the chin, this feeling in my throat.
This feeling in my throat.
And tapping on the collarbone, what if it closes up?
What if it closes up?
And under the arm, these thoughts make me feel so scared.
These thoughts make me feel so scared.
And what we're doing here is truth tapping. We're not tapping in negatives, we're tapping for how we feel. The words we'd use if we were talking to a dear friend and saying, this is how I feel, this is what's making me scared. And often we hear the words, it really freaks me out. So we're using those words in the tapping session. So coming up again to the top of the head, all this fear around my breathing.
All this fear around my breathing.
And the eyebrow point fixating on my throat.
Fixating on my throat.
And the side of the eye, this fear I can't breathe.
This fear I can't breathe.
Under the eye, this fear my throat might close.
This fear my throat might close.
And under the nose, this fear around my breath.
This fear around my breath.
And the center of the chin, this feeling in my throat.
This feeling in my throat.
And the collarbone, all this fear around my breathing.
All this fear around my breathing.
And under the arm, these thoughts make me feel so scared.
These thoughts make me feel so scared.
And now just have a deep breath in. And release it in a long, slow exhalation. And stretch your arms out. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the surface that supports you. And know that right here, right now, in this moment, you're safe. And we're just going to tap through the points another couple of times. Just to move on to opening to the possibility of feeling better around breathing. So tapping on the top of the head, I open to learning how to calm this fear.
I open to learning how to calm this fear.
And the beginning of your eyebrow, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
And the outside of the eye, I breathe easily.
I breathe easily.
Under the eye, I trust my body.
I trust my body.
Under the nose, I open to breathing freely.
I open to breathing freely.
And the center of the chin, I open to breathing freely.
I open to breathing freely.
And the collarbone, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
Under the arm, I open to breathing freely.
I open to breathing freely.
And the top of the head, I open to learning how to calm this fear.
I open to learning how to calm this fear.
And beginning of the eyebrow, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
Outside of the eye, I breathe easily.
I breathe easily.
Under the eye, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
Under the nose, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
In the center of the chin, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
The collarbone, releasing this fear.
Releasing this fear.
And then a really vigorous pat on the underarm point. I open to breathing deeply.
I open to breathing deeply.
And freely.
And freely.
And you can rewind and repeat until you feel completely calm and relaxed. And as we've already described, there's a longer version of this tapping session available in our health anxiety course, which goes into both of these stages more deeply. And then there's a third stage to the practice as well to really help you put this fear aside. And once you've worked thoroughly through tapping for this specific fear, you'll find it responds very quickly in the future. You just need to replay the recording or use your own words and tap through the sequence again, and you'll find that that fear responds very, very quickly to being calmed down, and you won't feel that intense fear around your throat and your breathing again.
Thanks for joining us for another podcast. We are so glad that you continue to come back and listen in, and we hope that you found this podcast supportive. If you have, we'd love for you to share some ratings and reviews wherever you listen in so that we can reach even more people who are suffering with anxiety. Until next week.